Say something!
Believe nothing you hear, and only one half that you see. Hello everyone, and welcome to day 25 of Terrorthon, Aqua Tofana. No, this isn't a trendy perfume, which is what it's known as nowadays. It was a poison that claimed many hundreds of lives back in the 17th century. And I humbly request an audience with you today to tell you the story of Aqua Tofana. It was the creation of a Sicilian woman named Giulia Tofana, who lived and worked in Palermo in the first half of the 17th century. Giulia was born in 1620 and was the daughter of Tofana de Adamo, who murdered her own husband named Francis when Giulia was just 13. Giulia spent a lot of time hanging around apothecaries, so she either invented Aqua Tofana herself or the recipe was passed down from her mother. In 17th century Italy, women's rights were practically non-existent. Arranged marriages for both men and women were very common, so these people would often end up in loveless marriages. But women more often than not hated their tyrannical husbands, and there was no escape from an arranged marriage in those days until your spouse died. Can you see where I'm going with this? There was definitely a market for a poison, and Aqua Tofana filled that gap. The first recorded mention of Aqua Tofana was either in 1632 or 1633. We're unsure of the quantities of its ingredients, but we know for a fact that it was made with arsenic, and it was described in its day as a liquid sufficient to destroy a man, and it was also nicknamed inheritance powders for obvious reasons. It would be slipped into a husband's cup of tea or glass of wine or so on, and it left absolutely no trace, not even in a post-mortem. It would usually be spread over 3 doses, and the symptoms were so mild that the husband wouldn't even consider calling a doctor. And because the symptoms of Aqua Tofana presented themselves as a disease, in religious Italy, this gave time for the husband to organise all of his affairs and repent for his sins, and that would also leave the murderer feeling very guiltless because his soul would not be damned. Giulia Tofana practically became rich overnight with her poison that she'd invented, and before she knew it she had a loyal following of supporters and also had a little distribution gang. This gang were instructed to sell Aqua Tofana and gave instructions for wives on how to murder their husbands and not get caught. For example, the wives were supposed to demand a post-mortem to alleviate all suspicion from them because, as I said before, Aqua Tofana was completely untraceable. At least 600 men were killed by Aqua Tofana, and it was suspected originally to have killed Mozart, but actually the truth is he himself started this rumour. But what is true is that Marie Madeleine d'Aubray was executed in 1676 for murdering her father and 2 brothers with the help of Aqua Tofana, of course simply to inherit their fortunes. Before she knew it, Giulia Tofana had amassed an empire built on poison, and the police wanted her arrested immediately as a result. She hid in a church, but once a rumour began to go around that she had poisoned Rome's entire water supply, the police forced entry into the church and captured her. She was then executed with her daughter and 3 helpers in July 1659, and some of her other accomplices were bricked into walls, which was a torture method known as immurement, into the dungeons of the Palazzo Pucci. And so ended the reign of Aqua Tofana. But there were equally popular poisons in those days that we didn't talk about. There was obviously a great market for murdering your husband. So next time you have a cup of tea or a glass of wine, just make sure it's Tofana free and you haven't married a black widow. Hey, speaking of black widows, see you tomorrow.